Ah, yes, the good old days, when gas was cheap, and it was, kids respected their elders, and everyone knew their place. Yeah, let's talk about that last part. Hey y'all, I'm Shaniqua, and this is I Got Tea. Time to educate America, because clearly somebody needs to. Today, we're breaking down the first warning sign of fascism, according to Umberto Eco's 14 Laws of Fascism. And the first one we'll be tackling is the cult of tradition. And if you think this doesn't sound familiar, girl, buckle up. So, what is the cult of tradition? The cult of tradition is one of the oldest tricks in the fascist playbook. Every authoritarian movement, every dictator, every power-hungry regime lies on it to sell oppression as something that should be protected. They tell you that things were better back then, but they never tell you who it was better for. Because let's be real, it wasn't better for everybody. Let's take a trip down historical gaslight lane, shall we? Example number 1, Mussolini and the Roman Empire. Mussolini loved to romanticize ancient Rome. He told Italians that they needed a strong leader, just like Caesar. What he really meant was, hand me all the power and I'll make us great again. Sound familiar? Now, example 2 is going to be the mustache man of the 1930s and the pure Germany. You see, that mustache man glorified an imaginary, racially pure Germany to justify the Holocaust. Heck, he wasn't even racially pure. He framed progress and multiculturalism as a threat to the nation's survival. Sounds pretty anti-woke to me. His entire movement was built on the idea that the only way to move forward was to move backward. Not going back? So let's bring it back to the present because, girl, we are living through the cult of tradition right now. I'll be using code names so this actually goes through. Now, Krasnov, you know who that is, he idolized Andrew Jackson. And Andrew Jackson was a genocidal maniac. He forced indigenous people off their lands in the Trail of Tears. Now, Krasnov calls him his favorite president, and that tells you everything you need to know. The second person is that pasty billionaire, you know who that is, crying about woke culture. We're watching a full-blown attack on diversity, education, progress, accessibility, inclusion. The pasty billionaire called woke culture a mind virus because he's mad that women and people of color aren't staying in their place. And now we have DEIA programs in affirmative action being rolled back. But the pasty billionaire isn't just attacking diversity. He is attacking accessibility too. He says autism like it's a smear or slur, and yet he has it, right? Now, DEI programs aren't just about hiring more diverse candidates. They're about dismantling the systems that kept marginalized communities locked out, that allows those who are even more qualified than their white counterparts to actually get looked at. Now, when they gut DEIA, they are actively reinforcing exclusion, inequity, and oppression. The other thing that we got going on here is this Confederate fantasy that just won't die. This country lost its damn mind over taking down Confederate statues. People acted like removing a statue of a man who fought to keep slavery was some attack on history. But let's be clear, the Confederacy lost the Civil War. Let me say that again. They lost. These men committed treason, but for some reason, this country has spent the better part of the last 150 years rewriting history to make traitors look like heroes. We have Confederate flags flying in government buildings. We have statues honoring men who committed treason against the United States. We name streets, schools, and military bases after the very people who fought to keep human trafficking, aka slavery, alive. And if that wasn't enough, this country turned Confederate propaganda into Hollywood gold. The movie Gone with the Wind is still considered a national cinematic treasure, and that film single-handedly romanticized slavery, portraying the Civil War as some tragic love story instead of what it actually was, a brutal fight to keep black people in chains. And let's not even get into what they did with those people. And don't even get me started on plantation weddings, because yes, in the year 2025, people are still having their corporate retreats and luxury weddings on sites where black people were tortured, raped, bred, trafficked, and killed. And if that wasn't bad enough, in 2021, during the January 6th insurrection, an actual insurrectionist marched a massive Confederate flag through the halls of the U.S. Capitol. Let me say that again. A flag representing traitors to this country was carried through the halls of the United States Capitol building. Whew. You cannot tell me that this isn't the cult of tradition in action. It is sanitized history designed to make oppression look noble. And girl, they are still running that same playbook today, glorifying the past while actively destroying the present. Are we not done? Because there's the war on women's rights. And this isn't just about banning abortion. They are actively taking away women's rights in ways that don't make headlines. HR 22 bill? If a married woman's legal name doesn't match her birth certificate, she can lose her right to vote if she doesn't have an up-to-date passport. Roe versus Wade repeal? Like, women's bodies are now controlled by the government when it shouldn't be legislation in the first place, especially not by a party that would force a woman to birth a baby, then turn around and cut her Medicaid and SNAP so she can't take care of that baby. What's next? Are we bringing back laws saying women can't open bank accounts without their husband's permission? I mean, that only just changed 50 years ago. Because, baby, that's where this is headed. Here's why the cult of tradition is dangerous. If you think this is just politics, I need you to listen very carefully. Tradition itself isn't inherently bad, but when tradition is used as an excuse to take away rights, restrict freedoms, and erase progress, that's not tradition. That's fascism. Their goal is not to protect the past. It is to erase the progress of the present. And if we let them keep pushing for this, we won't even have a future to fight for. So the next time someone tells you, back in my day, ask them whose day it really was. Because, girl, it wasn't yours. So this has been another episode of I Got Tea, time to educate America. And trust me, they're not going to like what's next.